Welcome to the Credolab Web SDK integration tutorial. Today, we'll guide you through the simple process of integrating the SDK into your Angular application. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a fully integrated library ready to collect and upload data effortlessly. Let's get started. Credolab SDK for Web is a JavaScript library that tracks and captures user behaviors and digital footprints on the web page. This information is uploaded to the Credolab web service for future use as insights and fragments. The Web SDK contains two services corresponding to common async and common flows. The first, Credolab Service Async, is recommended and is designed to continuously upload collected user behavior data once tracking is initiated. This allows tracking to start on a desktop web browser and continue on mobile devices, keeping the behavioral data under the same reference number associated with a user session. In other words, this service is cross-browser. The second service persists collected data in the browser and uploads only once when the user completes the entire application flow. Let's take a look at the integration process over the next few minutes. We are going to create the Angular project from scratch and integrate SDK into it. Once the project is created, we are going to jump into the root project folder. Next, go to the documentation docs.credolab.com. Select Web SDK integration page and go to the Declare Dependencies section. Copy the content for the npmrc file and go back to the project. Create .npmrc file and paste copied path to the private registry. Please update the token variable with the value provided by Credolab team. Go to the documentation and copy SDK dependency. Open the web page to view the latest SDK version. Go back to the project and paste Credolab dependency. Then replace XYZ with the actual version and execute command. The SDK has been successfully added. We will start tracking using the Credolab Service Async class, as it is the recommended flow, and walk through all the steps needed to begin and complete the tracking process. First, we'll create an Angular service that contains SDK functionality. We'll use it as a singleton and inject it into components within our app. This improves the app's modularity, maintainability, and testability. Open the created service and import Credolab Service Async. Next, instantiate the Credolab service field. The constructor of this class accepts two parameters. The first parameter is the URL of the Credolab server. The second parameter is the API key used for authentication. Please contact the Credolab team to obtain the actual values for both parameters. Let's add the function for the start tracking action. This method simply wraps and delegates the action to the instance of the Credolab service created earlier. This method is designed to begin tracking user behavior data and continuously upload it to the Credolab web server. It accepts a reference number, which is a unique identifier associated with the data and must be linked to the user. Next, we will add a method to complete the data collection process. This method should only be called if tracking is currently in progress, otherwise, an error will be returned. If the method finishes successfully, the data uploaded to the Credolab server will be marked as complete. This allows insights to be requested using the reference number from this tracking session. Now, let's open the app component class that serves as the root component of the application and inject Credolab service into the constructor. Next, declare the function for starting tracking. Within this function, we will call the service to initiate the data collection process. We will wrap the service call in a try-catch block to handle any potential errors. Additionally, we will add a reference number parameter and log an error that may be thrown by the service. Let's start the tracking process after Angular has fully initialized the components view. As mentioned earlier, we need to pass the reference number associated with the user and collected data, ensuring it remains the same throughout the entire user flow until the complete method is called. This value can be stored on the server side, allowing retrieval if the user switches browsers to continue filling out the application form. Next, we will add a new component with a single submit button. Clicking this button will stop and complete the tracking process. Open the created component and declare class constructor with the Credolab service parameter. Add a submit function that will be triggered when the button is clicked. Once a user completes filling out the form and presses the submit button, this function may validate the user's inputs. We omit the validation logic of any inputs to make the code readable. If all inputs are correct, the Credolab service stop tracking and complete async function will be called to complete process tracking. Let's add the form element with the submit button for this component. Next, open HTML file for app component and add form element. We are now going to start the application. To simplify the debugging process, we have added alerts to our code within the start and submit functions. Let's start our app by executing npm start command. Go to the browser to see the SDK in action. Once a page is opened, the tracking process is initiated, and an alert dialog is shown for debugging purposes. We can reload the page to be sure that the tracking process starts again. Let's click by Submit button to complete the tracking process. We see that the tracking process has been successfully completed, and from this moment, we can request insights on this data using the reference number assigned to this tracking session. Let's reload the page. At the moment, an error occurs indicating that tracking has not started due to a non-unique reference number. Let's click on the Submit button, and we get an error as well because tracking has not started yet. Let's see how we can handle this error in the code. Open the app component class and navigate to the Start Tracking method. In the catch block, we observe that the error contains a code and a message. As previously noted, the message indicated that the reference number was non-unique, with the corresponding code for 1. Open Credolab service class and update the Start Tracking method considering handling an error with the 41 code. In the pasted code, we wrap the Start Tracking async function of the Credolab service instance with the try-catch block. In case of an error, we check its code, and if the code equals 41, we generate a new reference number and start tracking again. Please remember that this number must be linked to a user. You may generate it on the back-end side instead of the client side. For additional error codes, please refer to the Credolab documentation. We have successfully integrated the Credolab service async, which continuously uploads collected data to the Credolab server and is more flexible than the non-async flow. As was mentioned, the async flow is recommended for use. Next, we will explore the steps needed to integrate the non-async Credolab service. We need to update the Start Tracking function. Remove async await keyboards. Update functions naming. Use appropriate import. Remove the error handling at this step. We also need to add a reference number to stop tracking and complete the function. Let's go to the app component to update the Start Tracking call by removing the reference number. Next, update complete tracking function. We have to add a reference number. These are all necessary changes. The app is now ready to start using the non-async Credolab service. For successful integration, we strongly recommend assigning the ID attribute for HTML elements to emphasize a specific logical control that holds significance within the user flow of your app. It is essential for maximizing the effectiveness of integrating SDK into your application. Descriptive IDs allow differentiating user interactions with various UI elements and provides a clear picture of user behavior. Let's open the HTML file where we declared the form and button. Here we are adding ID for form control and add ID for submit button. By making this a standard practice, you ensure that SDK integration is effective and beneficial. This is all for now. If you have any questions or need further assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to our team.